G'day guys, when to replace your Cpap supplies. We're talking things like tubing, filters, machines, humidification chambers, and mask components like your cushions, your headgear, your frames, all that stuff. When should you do it? That's what we'll be talking about today. Now to start, I'm going to go through what ResMed recommends. And what's interesting is they're not consistent in different countries. So I'll start with Australia. And this is straight from the ResMed website, .au. So they've said here the mask cushions every 6 months. So for those of you that don't know, mask frame every 6 to 12 months. So this here is your sort of frame section here, 6 to 12 months. Mask headgear is your sort of neoprene headgear with your Velcro straps, that sort of thing, every 6 months. Cpap machine air filters every 2 months. Cpap tubing every 12 months, once a year. And Cpap humidification tubs once a year, every 12 months. And I think that's it. So that's what they say in Australia. Now let's compare that to the advice they give for those of you living in the US, because it's remarkable how different the replacement schedule is. Once again, straight from the ResMed website in the US. So they say every month, they say to replace mask cushion and or nasal pillow. So there's your little nasal pillow, there's your mask cushion every month, and Cpap machine filters. So in the US, it's every month, and in Australia, it's every 6 months. And then the filters, they say every month, but in Australia, they say every 2 months. Now, every 3 months, mask frame, not including headgear, and Cpap tubing. So in the US, it's 3 months. In Australia, once again, a big difference, every 6 to 12 months. So almost 4 times the time frame for replacement there. And the tubing, we've got here every 12 months, and they're saying every 3 months. Very interesting. And then they've got every 6 months, mask headgear, chin strap, and humidifier tub. And once again in Australia, they've got every 12 months for the humidifier tub, and headgear, they've got 6 months. So the only part where Australia and the US match up for the replacement schedule is on the headgear every 6 months. So we've got 2 official ResMed documents, one Aussie, one US, on when you should replace your Cpap gear, and they're completely different. Over in the US, replace this every month. In Australia, every 6 months. Why is that? What's the reason? I think it has to do with the US insurance and the resupply. So over in the US, as you guys know, insurance pays for most of your gear. So if insurance is paying for this, why not replace it more often? It just means more money for ResMed. But I guess you have to ask, is that legal? Should it be that often that you replace this mask cushion? Do you need to replace it every month? I think you'll find the answer is no. You don't need to replace your Cpap tubing every 3 months, most of the time, unless it's broken. So I'll have to look into this a little bit more, because potentially this is just a great big insurance scam. And ResMed and the Cpap manufacturers have just gone, yep, here's the replacement schedule, tick, 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 replace all this gear. And I've seen pictures on the net of just Cpap users like yourselves with tables full of tubs and packets of tubing and filters. They've just got these great big piles of CPAP gear that they're not using. Anyway, I found that a little bit strange. So today I thought, instead of this confusing documentation that doesn't line up, I'd just give you my thoughts on when you should replace your gear. And it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, guys. You got to use your common sense, but I'll go through some tips for you. So let's start with your CPAP tubing. All right. When do you need to replace your CPAP tube? Well, there's a few reasons. One, it's broken, obviously. They tend to break here around where they connect to the mask. This little section here tends to go, or maybe when you're pulling it off, sometimes it stretches. And also this part here at the back where it connects to the machine. Once again, that's a friction point. Over time, bending. They will break eventually. Another thing, these cuffs, sometimes they start to get a bit loose and they come off the tube. If that starts to happen and your CPAP tube is fine, the rest of the tube is fine, the cuff's getting a little bit loose, just once again, use your brain, guys. You can just wrap a little bit of tape and make that a little bit thicker so that when it plugs in, it's a secure connection. This CPAP tubing, most CPAP tubes, if you look after them well, take good care of them, clean them frequently, they should last at least 12 months. Now, with the filters, you want to use the hypoallergenic filters. I've said it 1,000 times. These standard filters are useless. Hold them up to the light, you can see straight through them. They let a whole lot of dust into your machine, straight into your blower. It makes the blowers noisy, it gets in amongst the fans. Hypoallergenic ones, they're great for allergies, but they'll stop a lot of dust getting through, and replace them once a month. All right, great tip for you right there. Your machine will last a lot longer if you use hypoallergenic filters. Change them once a month. What else have we got here? Your tubs. Humidifier chambers, the water tubs, and they should last 12 months if you're looking after them, using distilled water or cleaning them out on a regular basis. There's no reason why they shouldn't last 12 months. That being said, it's a little bit of a common flaw with these ResMed tubs that they sometimes start to leak out the seal at the bottom between the metal plate and the plastic. So if that happens, I would recommend you hit up ResMed for a warranty replacement, because it is a known flaw. Otherwise, if you can't be bothered with that, just go and grab a new one. They're not that expensive. All right, but 12 months at least for the water tubs. Moving on, mask cushions. Now I'll tell you straight up, you do not need to replace your mask cushions every single month like ResMed is recommending. That is ridiculous. All right, and it's not great for the environment, is it? All this plastic gear going into landfill. You take 12 million ResMed users throwing one of these out every month, that's a lot of cushions, all right, a lot of plastic. So you don't need to do it, guys. I'm thinking with the mask cushions, 1-2 times a year, depending on the mask. If you've got a pillow mask, these little pillows here will generally last a year before you need to replace them, all right? The shape holds up really well. Whereas with your nasal or your full face mask cushion, yeah, okay, over time they start to stretch, the oil and sweat gets into them and they start to lose their seal. What you can do is, if you jump on sleephq.com, you can check out your mask leak trends over the past 6 months and have a look. If that mask leak is nice and stable over the past 6 months, and the mask looks good, smelling okay, it looks reasonably clean, you don't need to replace it, guys. What do you need to replace it for? It's doing its job. You only need to replace it if it's broken or if your leak rates are going in an upward direction. The mask is starting to leak more. Time to get a freshie. Then you have the headgear and the mask frame. Once again, I'd say probably every 6 to 12 months. That's the recommendation here. And last of all, what is the replacement schedule on a CPAP machine? How long should they last? Well, ResMed states the product lifespan is around 5 years, but in my experience, if you're looking after them, using those hypoallergenic filters, stopping the dust from getting into the motor, you should get between 5 to 12 years use. It does make me wonder how many perfectly good working CPAP machines have just been thrown out, put in the closet, just because insurance pays for a new one every 5 years. perhaps there's some way we could use those old machines to help those that perhaps can't afford or can't get access to CPAP therapy. Until next time guys, sleep well, look after your mates, and I'll see you soon. Bye.